other questions. And of course, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, or you can ping either Alexei or me privately if you're a bit shy, and we'll keep it anonymous. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna start with a question that I think is pretty interesting. So it's by Anonymous Peach Ferret. 10 years ago, everyone was talking about data science, the sexiest job of the 21st century. Recently, we have talked about data engineers, and now we're talking about MLEs, machine learning engineers, which is synonymous with machine learning in production. So here's the question. What will be the new topic in the near future for ML? Do you have any guess? Alexa, do you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about this. So there is this thing called MLOps, which I think it's it's a very packed term, and it means a lot of things. So first of all, it means processes, like all the processes around how machine learning engineers collaborate with the rest of the team. But it also oftentimes means, if we talk about MLOps engineer, person who actually takes care of deployment of the model. So there is you have a data scientist who is deploying, who is working on training a model, preparing features. You have a data engineer who is taking care of creating these data pipelines. Maybe you have a machine learning engineer who also works a bit on this software engineering part of the work, and then it also needs to go to some platform, right? Some machine learning platform, or deploy it somewhere. Like it can be a Kubernetes cluster, it can be SageMaker, it can be something else. And I think this role of a person who is like doing the operational part of machine learning, this role, I think it starts to appear more and more often. And I think this is one of the topics we will see more and more in the future. So somebody who is taking care of the operational part, ops part of machine learning. So it can be machine learning engineer, perhaps, but maybe it can be somebody more specialized. Like we have, for example, we have a role called SRE, or site reliability engineer. And now I'm talking about traditional software engineering. So let's say you have a web service, and then there is a special role called site reliability engineer, whose task is to make sure that this service is up and running all the time. So you have this reliability, you have all these metrics, all these operational metrics we care about. So I think something like this will also happen in machine learning. So we will have some sort of machine learning reliability engineer or something like this, whose job will be to make sure that our models, our pipelines are up and running all the time. This is just my guess. Yeah, maybe you have something on your mind, Jane?
I do, but I think Ro has a very interesting question. It feels like there's a growing specialized divide between productionization and operationalization. Do you want to comment on what do you see the divide is? I mean, in my mind, it's actually the same thing, but what do you think is the divide?
This is what Alexei was saying, basically. I mean, in my thoughts, to reference where I'm picking this off from, there was a podcast, the MLOps community, Ooze, and he made this distinction between getting a model in production and all the work of doing that. And, once the model is in production, making sure that it is running optimally. So like the sort of longer term and optimization on hardware and so on.
Makes sense. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe productionization would be what they do is they get it deployed, and operationalization, they take care of all the ops overhead, all the on-call, scaling it, etc.
Exactly, like the rest of the budget. Where will this be in 3 years?
Makes sense. Well, I think what is the new topic in the near future? I don't have any guesses on the new topic, but I do have a guess on what will be the same topic in the next 5 to 10 years. I think, I guess, let me just share about where I see the machine learning industry, the field is going. I think a lot of stuff is trying to become automated, and ideally, we should see it becoming automated. But we've had a lot of trouble. For example, SageMaker is supposed to help you automate deployment, Google AI platform, Azure So many startups are spinning up around this, but they still haven't cracked the problem yet. But I hope they will. And we have startups that have been successful in just give them the data, they can try 100 machine learning models and they take care of everything for you. Or we have startups that make it easy to build data pipelines, right? DBT. But there's one problem that's never going to go away, and that's the problem of defining the problem. No one's ever going to automate this. In my role in Amazon, I mean, we have software engineers, we have applied scientists, I'm an applied scientist, we have data scientists, etc. We have managers. The main value that everyone delivers is defining the problem. Even software engineers, you would think software engineers, they write code, but a lot of what we write, at least within Amazon, is documents. And these documents are design documents that define what the problem is, how it should be solved for it to be successful, to be considered a successfully solved problem. And all the rest. So why should we solve it? And what does a good solution look like? No machine is going to automate this. Right? For example, building a recommendation system. What does a good solution look like? Are we going to solve an item-to-item recommendation system or user-to-item recommendation system? No one's going to be able to automate this. So I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be that same problem. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think you're right. So this low code, no code solutions, that's great, but it feels like we're still a long way before we're there. I hope, I really like the idea, for example, behind SageMaker, but the truth is, sadly, today, you still have to write a lot of code to make SageMaker work. Yeah, I like the direction. So if you compare now and 5 years ago, it's a lot simpler now to deploy models. There are standards. There is this thing called MLOps. So it's a lot easier. So I think in 5 years, hopefully we will see a lot of these no-code tools where you just do drag and drop and then connect things and then it magically works. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it all evolves.
I have a strong opinion on no code. I used to use a lot of no code tools or low code tools. I mean, because we had to, at least in Alibaba. And I tried some of the no code tools. I find that how it works. I think this is how I think it works for people. And I would love to hear your take on it. I think that low code tools or no code tools, at least this is what I see, they can make a data analyst into a data scientist, help them deploy stuff, quickly run their machine learning and quickly run their visualizations. But for data scientists or someone who can already do a lot of it by writing code, they can customize it themselves. Being no code or low code actually brings them to the lowest common denominator. It makes it harder for people who can actually do that to work. For example, if I want to write, for example, let's say I wanted to use SageMaker and I wanted to deploy on some kind of container, and they have PyTorch container, TensorFlow container, XGBoost container. And let's say if they only allowed that, and I wanted to deploy something using another machine learning model, that would restrict me. I would have to force myself into PyTorch or TensorFlow or XGBoost or now Hugging Face. But because it doesn't have to do that, I can build my own container and actually deploy a recommender system on it. There's no SageMaker recommendation container for that, but it allows me to do that and tap on the benefits of SageMaker. But I think a lot of no-code tools actually don't allow for that at this point in time. So I think maybe an analogy is like maybe Excel. Excel is super powerful, right? It makes everyone super powerful, but it also has to have that. And I don't know, I don't fully understand this. I think it also has that macro and VBA component where people who want to supercharge Excel, they can write their own code and do that. So I think that's what's great about Excel. It has the no code aspect and also has the coding aspect. I think that's useful for everyone.
In Excel, actually, yeah, you brought this up. So in Excel, there is a possibility to record a macro. So you start recording, then you start clicking, it records everything, and then you can replay it. So that would be super cool to see in a couple of years how this works in no-code ML solutions. Like when you do something like this. I think this is a great analogy.
Okay, Anyone has any other thoughts on this or any other comments on this question? Well, I guess not. I guess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rose.
I was just trying to read your chat comment before commenting. Yeah, Tableau Prep lets you do graphical. It's like that. It's like a DAG. You see a graphical representation of the steps.
Okay, I'm not sure if we lost here or.
Huh?
I think Ro, you're talking, but your mic is very far away from your mouth.
I'm sorry. That better? I'm outside, so I'm not really sure if it could just be a reception.
Oh, okay. It could be, yeah.
Can you hear me now, though?
We can hear you fine now. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll just hold it while I'm talking. Right, yeah, Tableau Prep gives you a graphical interface where you can specify what the transformations that you want it to do to your data before you import it into the window where you do the drag and drop stuff to make the dashboard. So it's kind of a low/no code. You can also apparently do some Python scripting there, but I haven't used that functionality.
That's cool. I think that's going to make it a lot easier for people who don't have a technical background, to build some basic data pipelines.
Yeah, actually, which reminds me now, there is a tool from Microsoft called SSIS, something related with integration. So basically, the idea, this is a data warehousing tool. Well, it's a ETL tool for your data warehouse, where you have different data sources, and then you would drag and drop different steps in the ETL, like you have your deduplication step, you have your join step, and things like this. It's all drag and drop, so it's really cool until you need to customize something. But then you also can customize it. You can create like a custom component. I think back then when I used it last time, you would need to write C# code for that because Microsoft, of course. Maybe now they support Python or R. But yeah, I think so. This gives you this flexibility of using like these pre-built solutions for standard operations like deduplicating, fuzzy lookups, and things like this that you typically need for your data cleaning operations. But when you need to have something custom, then you have this custom script component where you can, I don't know, import maybe PyTorch and do things like that. So this is interesting.
Sounds cool. Okay, I think, well, Vita is here. And so I'm gonna just read out Vita's question. And, if you want to chime in and add more flavor to it or context, let's do that. I think Vita's question is about mentoring. So at Eugenian, I read your post about your 2021 roadmap. You've mentioned that you've mentored and still continue to do this with a few people. Can you share how you arrange this process in general? Which milestones do you and your mentees put on their roadmaps? How often do you have a call, weekly, monthly? What problems do your mentees usually face? Did I represent that correctly, Vita? Is there anything else you want to add on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I guess I think this question is asking me as a mentor, but I'm going to try to answer it as a mentee, and it will work both ways. So how do I arrange this process in general? I think how I think about this, let's imagine I'm a mentee and I'm thinking, hey, there's someone who's like 2 or 3 steps ahead of me, and I'm going to use Alexei as an example. Alexei is a lead data scientist at OLX, and hey, Alexei, how you get to that space? How do you build a community or whatever? I have a question in my mind that I want to learn from Alexei. So I will just email Alexei and just say, hey, Alexei, I noticed that you do this, you do this, you do this. So the how to reach out to a mentee and what milestones you have, how to reach out to a mentor and what milestones you have, it really depends on what you want to get out of the relationship. So let's say Alexei right now, he's a lead data scientist at OLX. So maybe I want to take on a technical management role or people management role. I know Alexei is not a people manager, but I'm just using it as an example. And I'm going to ask Alexei, hey, Alexei, how do I transition from being an IC into a people manager? And I'm going to ask him that question. I'm going to set up a question. Hey, you know, Alexei, this is where you are. I'm interested in this. This is my one single question to you, or 2 or 3 questions around the same topic. Would you be okay for a 30-minute chat? No one ever says no. There's no one who ever says no for a 30-minute chat, because you know, people are interested in how I did it, right? I can show off, I can share, I can help people. Or it could be another way around. I could ask Alexei, hey Alexei, I noticed that you built an awesome community in months. How did you do it? So, and then I'll say, here's the research I have. Here's the roadmap I have. Do you have any feedback? And here's one question I have for you. What can I improve on? And you know, if you just email Alexei, he's gonna say, yeah, of course, happy to help. But the point is this: when you reach out to a mentor, there must be a very clear and specific objective. I know this could come across as transactional, but it's not. It is that when you reach out to a mentor, at least the mentor has a very clear direction on how to help you. You don't reach out to a mentor and say, hey, no, can you just mentor me? But mentor you to do what? Am I the right mentor? It's hard to say. But if you reach out to them with a clear question, Alexei can say, oh yeah, I've done this. This is how I did it. I can share. Or yep, I built a community. This is how I did it. I can share. So that's how I arrange this process. And I guess a few tips. Usually I send out an email, and usually I say I can be available at this time slot to this time slot. So the mentor can just reply in a single email, this time slot works for me, and then I will set it up. So we don't have, you know, to do the ding dong of, hey, you know, what time is good for you, what time, and you know, all that logistical matters take a lot of time and effort. What milestones do you and your mentees put on your roadmaps? So for my mentees, the key milestone for my mentees is, you know, helping them achieving the next level in their career, right? Usually, more often than not, a lot of my mentees, we have a lot of interview prep. So I'll give them mock interviews, and then I'll check in with them. You know, how many applications you sent, how many interviews you did, what feedback do you get? So those are the milestones. I guess the big milestone, which sort of ends the mentorship relationship, is that they have achieved that next step in their career, either getting promoted or moving to a different job. And you know, it might sound like, you know, ending the mentorship. Again, it sounds like, you know, it's a very transactional thing, but it's not actually. It's that, hey, the mentor has helped the mentee achieve a certain level, and then what's next in the relationship? I mean, if there's no objective or there's no clear purpose, they don't have to meet periodically, you know, just to chat and catch up, right? Because that's not a good use of each other's time, unless they want to maintain this kind of one-on-one recurring relationship. But that's what happens. So usually in my previous I've reached out to mentors, and so you asked about the cadence, right? How often do I have a call? I've reached out to mentors in the past when I just became a data scientist. So I'll reach out to them, I ask them, hey, you know, what makes a great data scientist? And I'll reach out to them once, and they would, you know, they'll give me a lot of feedback, a lot of follow-up, and you know, I'll interview maybe 5 or 6 people, and I have all this feedback, and then I'll act on it. And then the next time I follow up with them is actually in 6 months to 12 months. And I'll say, this is the feedback you gave me. This is what I did. This is what happened. And these are the new questions I have. So I actually reach out to them after 6 months or 12 months. And then, you know, after I became a decent data scientist, I became a people manager, a lead. And then again, I found I had to find new mentors, right? New mentors who were in leadership positions. Ask them, hey, you know, you're leading a team of 3 to 5 people, or leading a team for about 5 years. What do you think has been really effective in helping you improve the effectiveness of the team? And you know, they'll say that, oh, you know, I make people write 1-pagers, or you know, I have weekly demos for knowledge transfer. And I'll think about, oh, okay. And then I would do it with my own team. And then again, in about 6 to 12 months, I would reach back to them, hey, you know, I did this 1-pager thing, it was awesome. I did this demo thing, it was great. One thing I found that made it really superb was to have beer and pizza at the demo, so that business stakeholders would come as well, and they would learn a lot. And then that's useful for the mentor. So the cadence that I have, again, for me, is about 6 to 12 months. But some of my mentees, they have a cadence of 1 to 2 months. So essentially, you want to have enough time between each cycle for the mentee to act on the feedback of the mentor and have some results so that they can iterate. What problems do my mentees usually face? At least for me, my mentor is usually mostly career related. I don't know if that answers your questions, Vita.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah,
You're welcome.
Yeah. Maybe I can add a few things. So when you think about a mentor, oftentimes you think of like regular once per week catch-ups, and you have just one mentor, but it's not actually like, it doesn't have to be like this. So you can have like 10 mentors, and each of which you talk just once. It's already good enough, and you maybe in half a year you can have a follow-up, but maybe you just learned enough from this half a year chat with that person. It would be nice, of course, to follow up like after 6 months, just to say, hey, like we had this chat half a year ago, maybe you don't remember, but your advice was very helpful. This is what I did. And sometimes when I receive messages like that, it's so nice knowing that there is somebody who I helped. Like now, like maybe they tried to transition from data analytics to data science, and now half a year later they wrote, hey, like I'm already a data scientist, now I'm working on this cool project, thanks a lot for the advice you gave. So that's really cool. But I also wanted to talk a bit about this more regular mentorship. So something like you have maybe every week, because usually this kind of relationship you might have at work. So for example, this is what we have at OLX. We have these mentorship programs. So for example, there is a data analyst or a software engineer who want to make a transition to a different role. So maybe a data analyst wants to transition to data science, or a software engineer wants to transition to data engineer or machine learning engineer. And what happens, and this is oftentimes official, so there is official mentor-mentee relationship. So we both mentor and mentee have this as an official goal to reach some sort of I don't know, to some sort of state. For example, make this transition or finish this project. And then what happens is we together write a special document, like mentorship document, where we say, okay, this is the duration of the mentorship program. Let's say it's 3 months, right? Here are the milestones of the mentorship project. Like by the end of month one, we will have that. By the end of month 2, we will have that, and then by the end of month 3, we'll have like a complete project. So, for example, first can be like trying a simple model, then month 2 creating a data pipeline, and then month 3, I don't know, creating some sort of a web service, for example, something like this. So it should be very concrete. And then also in this document, we say how often we meet. So for example, we say that we meet once per week to have like a Zoom call. And then I dedicate 1 week to answer any questions in asynchronous mode. So that I commit at least 2 hours of my time to the mentee. And yeah, so this is like a quite official document. What helps here is that for the mentee to think through all these things, to actually understand what they want to achieve, what is the final state they want to. So how can we say that the mentorship program is over? Like how we can say that you graduated? Like this should be defined. And if it's clear, and of course we work together on defining this, but I think this really helps to see what are the milestones, what we need to achieve. And it makes it easier to see if we're on track, things like this. So just, this is probably just a long way of saying that planning is really helpful. And then of course, like if it's a document that says I have to commit 2 hours of my work, then I have to commit 2 hours of my work to help this person. So they don't feel like they're stealing my time, because I give them permission to actually ask me questions. And I think this is also important, because oftentimes people feel like I'm doing something super important and they cannot write me because this is a stupid question. But if I say, okay, you have actually 2 hours of my time, you can ping me with whatever stupid question you have. Like, I mean, it's not stupid, but if you think it's stupid, like you can just write me this question anyways. I think this really helps. Yeah, that's probably it.
Cool. I also just want to add a bit about me as a mentee. I have two. So we talked about the very targeted kind of mentoring, right? I think there's another aspect of it, which is coaching. So mentoring is usually very targeted. The person is someone sort of close in your organization, and the mentor would say that, hey, you should do your best for something. But a coach is someone that coaches you over the long period. A coach would even be willing to say, hey, maybe your growth in this role is limited and you need to search outside for a different role. A coach has that kind of relationship with you. So I have two mentors / coaches in my current workplace, and there's no clear target in mind. There's no clear objective. For me, there's a very clear objective, which is how can I be more effective. But there's no one milestone or end goal that says that's done. So but I meet them every month. Every month I'll come with questions about that I'm thinking about, questions about culture. For example, maybe one question I recently thought of, hey, I'm seeing a lot of people doing duplicate work and building all these small models. It becomes very difficult to maintain and discover how should I bring a culture of consolidation and reuse. That's a question I might have. Or maybe there's another question that's saying that, hey, I've seen that there are certain teams that don't have the necessary engineering resource. That's something that's definitely beyond my pay grade. But how can I bring about, how can I influence? How can I try to influence without authority to ensure that those teams have the necessary engineering resource and they're not strapped? So these are the questions I have, and these mentors or coaches I have in Amazon, they have a lot of experience. It's like 5+ years experience, so they sort of know what is the right way to do things in Amazon, be it writing a design document or floating a document around, or who should I talk to, things like that. So those are not mentorship relationships whereby we have a clear goal in mind. And I also have such mentees or I have such people that I chat with outside of work as well, once a month, where there's no clear goal as well. It's really just to catch up and to learn from each other, to inspire each other and on what they're doing. And again, there's no clear goal. So I think this can work as well, but there's a very key ingredient. I find that this can only work if the mentor and mentee have some sort of chemistry. In a sense, after for the mentor I had in Amazon, the first time I had a one-on-one with him, because during my onboarding, my manager said, you should have a one-on-one with all these people, talk to them, understand how Amazon is like. The person I spoke to, and our first one-on-one, he was like, wow, I said, I really enjoyed this. Do you want to have a recurring one-on-one? He actually initiated because we had a lot of fun. He felt that I brought a lot of experience and external perspective from industry, and he initiated that relationship. The other one, it was me initiating a relationship. I was like, hey, I need a applied scientist mentor, and multiple people have recommended you, and I spoke to him, and we hit it off immediately because the way we think is the same, the way we speak is the same, our values and perspectives are the same. So it makes a very fun, ongoing relationship. But what I'm not so good at, and this is something that I'm actively trying to do, is to try finding mentors that have a completely different perspective. So what I mean by that is this: I'm an applied scientist. I'm very pragmatic. I'm very practical. I do very practical stuff, but I'm trying to find a mentor that is more towards the academic side of things, so that it can balance me out. Someone who focuses on writing papers, or presenting at conferences, or working on state of the art. So that's something you can think about as well.
I have a question. So it seems like, from what I understood, when you need a mentor, you come with a clear, specific objective. So then mentor can immediately say if they can help you or not, with a coach, it's different. So maybe your objective, I want to be more effective. It's as vague as possible, right? So how do you actually go about writing these people and saying, hey, can you be my coach? I want to be more effective. And is this all? Or you first have some sort of a chat with them and see if you, as you said, there's chemistry between you. So how does this process look like?
Yeah, for me, how it looks like is that, hey, I would send out an email. I would say, hey, I spoke to, and it's like this, I spoke to multiple people and they recommended that I reach out to you. And for these questions, and I reach out to them with 3 questions: how to be a great, what's important to be a good data scientist in Amazon, what should I level up on, what are transferable skills, and I'll just set up a single meeting. And at that single meeting, I mean, and you see the chemistry, right? If the chemistry is there, you carry on. And I've had people that I reach out to, and the chemistry was not there at all. And that was, I thought, oh, thank you very much, and that's it. But for people where the chemistry is there, I'll say, I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too. And they'll say, yeah. I mean, they'll try to be polite. And I'll say, hey, would you mind if I have a recurring one-on-one with you at once every month? And they say, yeah, sure, I would love to. And you just set up that recurring for maybe about 6 months. And the recurring will maybe expire in about 6 months. And then after that, you would check in again, hey, if you have more to learn from them. And if not, you can just let it expire. That's fine. But that's how I usually do. I usually start with one meeting to see if the chemistry is there and if we can learn from each other.
Yeah, thanks. And I think you mentioned one thing that you do this outside of work, not to mentor somebody or get mentored or get coached, but rather exchange experience, exchange your knowledge. So this is, I think, I think it's sometimes called like mastermind groups, people who are on the same level. Like it's not like usually when somebody is mentor and somebody is mentee, usually then the mentor have more experience than the mentee or the coach. But it doesn't have to be like that, right? So people can have multiple, like the same level of experience, right? And still learn a lot of each other or from each other, right? So it can be more like an experience exchange meeting rather than somebody just asks and the other person answers. So like this concept of mastermind groups is quite interesting. Yeah, I don't do this, but it would be interesting to try that.
Yeah, I've been trying to do this for a while. I tried to do this when I was in Singapore, and you'd be surprised. I reached out to a few people, and no one was interested. They're like, it takes too much time. Then after that, I tried continuing again, but it was more of a one-on-one relationship. It doesn't take too much effort. So I chat with, I think 3 or 4 people outside of work, maybe once a month. And right now, they're just so diverse, and I haven't thought about how I would actually ever bring them all together in a single mastermind group. But maybe I think that could work, and that's my eventual goal. At least mastermind group for, I don't know, data science or machine learning.
Which brings to like sometimes I think when like let's say you want to transition from data analytics to data science and you write somebody, this person maybe will help you once, but they will not necessarily have time to have catch-ups with you regularly. But maybe what is helpful is to have a mastermind group, or you can call it differently. Maybe this is too fancy name, but like you can just join forces with other data analysts who also want to switch to data science, and you just work together. Like because think like here you don't really have a mentor, but you hold each other accountable, and this is what a mentor would do, like check on you, right? Instead of having a mentor to check on you, you can have somebody else who is on the same level as you, who is also who also wants to do the same thing as you. You can just check on each other. I think this is also helpful.
That's a great point. So that's something I do. I have someone who's a writing buddy, So I think we committed to writing once a week, and that has been very successful for both of us. So I think something like that is useful where there's a clear purpose in mind. So I think I wanted to address Ro's question. Ro had a question about me and my coaches in Amazon. So the question is, how do you find these people? Amazon is a huge company. That's a very good question. I ask my managers or my skip or people I talk to, who do you think I should reach out to learn more about this specific skill, or to learn more about how to navigate this challenge? And they would recommend. And usually after people recommend the same name twice or thrice, they say like, I think this person is a great fit for you. You guys think alike, and he can help you achieve the next level. I will reach out to them. So it's always purely by word of mouth. There are times whereby I reach out to people, I see the content they post on LinkedIn, or I look at their LinkedIn profile, and they seem interesting, and I'll reach out to them as well. But that has, at least within Amazon, that has never worked out. Outside of Amazon, when I'm reaching out to random strangers, either based on what I know about them, about their content from Twitter or LinkedIn, that has been quite useful for me.
Yeah, I think you reached out to me, and yeah, but I remember first I actually asked you some stuff, and then you reached out to me to have a chat. So that worked out pretty well.
I can't remember, but yeah, it worked out. So I think Ro also had another question. How do you keep from just having the same conversation every week? So that's a good point. So with these people that I chat with, it's once a month, and usually it's sort of like okay, I don't want to make it sound that way, but a format I think is very useful is the stand-up format. And it's gonna sound pretty boring, but this is what I did last month. This is what I'm doing now. These are the challenges I have. So and usually the people I chat with, they'll do that. So and sometimes some of the people I talk to, they achieve so much in 1 month, and it just puts a lot of I just feel very inspired. Or the other way is I feel very pressured that wow, my God, I should be keeping up with these guys. So that's what. And I also share a lot of ideas, a lot of new thinking I have. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking that so for example, one thing that I talk to a lot with a lot of my fellow machine learning practitioners that I chat with, I'm like, I'm thinking about, hey, I think there's just too much focus on machine learning right now. I don't think that's the real problem. I don't think that's the real bottleneck. The real problem is figuring out how to use machine learning effectively, right? It's not learning TensorFlow or these new deep learning models. And I want to test my ideas with them, just like how I tested my ideas with you guys. I think, I don't think there's a next new topic for machine learning. I think it will be the same topics in the next 5 to 10 years time. And that's the topics that I want to try to help people on. And I will test them with other people, and sometimes they will disagree, sometimes they will agree, but we always learn from whatever disagreement comes out, and that helps me refine my thinking and my ideas on how I can do better to help the community. So that's what we do. And sometimes sometimes the conversation does get a bit because neither of us because we can't always be sprinting all the time, right, month on month. And sometimes we just say, oh, I just did a bit of this, a bit of that, and that's fine. That's just a catch up, and that's okay. I don't know if I addressed your question, bro.
I was kind of sort of more aimed at Alexi's comment on this mastermind thing. So, but I also have the same question about so you answered part of my question, or rather the question in that direction. Although sitting here thinking about it, I think I would mostly feel comfortable reaching out to people in my company, because then they would have a clear reason to want to talk to me about these things because of sort of, the company culture, and also very specific advice related to how things work. Whereas, okay, I just listened to this podcast, this guy gave great, stories and advice, but he's also like head of a company. Why would he want to talk to me once a month for half an hour? Yeah. So I guess the question specifically about reaching out to external mentors is like, how do you, I don't know, do you just take the plunge and say, hey, I really liked that podcast and your advice, and I'd like to talk to you regularly, or I'd like to talk to you once and see, do you have 30 minutes where I can ping you with questions related to what you said?
Yeah, that's that. I would do the latter. So for example, usually something like this, hey, I spoke to someone, he recommended I chat with you, or, I noticed that this is what you did. Then my question is, what did you have to demonstrate to get into the lead position or something like that? And, I have like 3 or 4 bullet points. And they say, would love to have a chat with you. And, I can be available at these time slots. Or if a chat is, if there's a chat is too inconvenient, or if you prefer, we can always, you can respond via email. I've never had a person respond via email. We've always had a chat. Always a 30-minute chat is actually much easier than responding to an email, if you think about it. And after a chat, we'll hit off, and I'll just end off with saying, this was really helpful for me. Would you mind if I check in with you again in a couple of months to share with you my updates and progress and what I learned? No one ever says no to that. No one ever says. Of course, I would love to learn how my advice helped you, right? I would love to learn how it didn't help you, so I can give better advice to people and I can help other people better. So yeah, but you always start with a single chat and see if it hit. See if, of course, you want to check if the advice makes sense to you specifically to your context, or if you have enough chemistry to hit it off. And if it does, you check in again in 6 months or 12 months. Usually with these external mentors, there are several levels ahead of you. I don't check in with them once a month. Once a month is more like my peers or people that are just they are at least closer in level to me. And we have great chemistry, right? The main thing is we must have great chemistry, because if the chemistry is not good, you don't want to talk to them once a month either.
Yeah, maybe I would add to that you probably don't want to start your conversation with, okay, I watched your podcast, how about we have a recurrent meeting? This is
much commitment.
Yes, exactly. Like this is just like, I don't know you. No, I don't want to have regular catch-ups with you. This is just
right.
too much.
I mean, that's sort of this transition from, hey,
Yeah.
I found this person on the internet, to, hey, I'd like to talk to this person. Seems a bit large. Like, I feel comfortable saying, okay, well, you had great insights on this podcast. Let's be connected on LinkedIn. Like, I'm comfortable making that leap.
Yeah. And actually, when somebody writes me saying, hey, I watched the interview you did and I really liked it, but one thing wasn't clear to me, and then there is a specific question. This is really great, because it first showed that the person actually watched an interview and has a specific follow-up. While when I get a question about, hey, like, and just, like a big question that I maybe answered already a couple of times in some podcasts, then it shows that the person maybe didn't really do a lot of research. Yeah. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, like, if I get an email like that saying I watched your interview and here is a follow-up, chances are that I will reply, they are very high. I think it's close to 100%, because like it's a nice feeling when somebody really likes what you say, and it's hard to say no simply to do that.
And it's also because you are actually able to answer that question, because you've thought about it enough to be interviewed and you can answer. So sometimes people ask me, I have this repository online, the Applied ML repository, and someone asked me, hey, that's a great repository. Thank you very much. Do you have any resources on sequencing for DNA? Like, that's a pretty random question. And I don't know how to answer, because no, I don't. I'm sorry. I would Google a bit, I don't, but here are some links that might be useful for you, and that's it. Yeah, but those are the kind of random questions that you don't want to ask that much.
And yes, sorry, please.
Yes.
Sorry, could I ask the thing is, Alexi, when you see this mastermind thing, so I did a quick Google, and it's supposed to be like a 10-person, effectively like group therapy, but not therapy, like, group coaching. But the thing is, as a person who's organized things before, I mean, I've organized things before, like regular meetups for various reasons. You never actually, and you might have a core 1 or 2 people, but a core 10 people who really show up every single time is like, that's asking a lot. So how do you envisage having a group like this that doesn't just keep having the same conversation every week?
Oh, you just, for example, you can start with, hey, what are the problems you have? And then problems, because you don't tend to have the same problem over and over again, you eventually solve it, right? And then the problems become different. So maybe
I don't know,
that could be-
everybody's problem is like, oh, I need to find a job in data science. Like, you could have people dialing in every week to this being like, how do I get a job in data science every single week? That could be the
Yeah.
same question. I mean, the answer to my question could be, well, Rosanna, you could just do what we're doing here and, you know, force people to ask questions beforehand.
Yeah, but
Maybe I can try to chime in on that. I think Mastermind group, Benjamin Franklin, he used to have this Junto group, and all the members of the Junto eventually became super successful. But Junto is actually a structured form of mutual improvement. So I think it's a very diverse. And there was once in the past where I accidentally created a Junto group. So how this happened was that we would have monthly meetups. When I used to be in Singapore, I used to organize monthly meetups for Data Science SG. At a meetup, industry practitioners would share use cases of how they use machine learning in production. And we would organize this every month. I think we did this for about 5 years, and I was tracking the statistics. 80% of the people that show up, they're first timers. They show up once and they never show up again. And the speaker would ask questions. Anyone have any questions? And most people don't ask questions. It's Singapore, it's Southeast Asia. Most people are just very conservative Asian. They just stay quiet. But right after the meetup, when the speaker is there, the regulars just show up and just ask a lot of questions. So the meetup would be like this, the talking would be like 30, 45 minutes. And then the post meetup dinner and supper and chats would be like 2 hours. That is the Junto. It's the same couple of people who are always going to McDonald's or always going out for drinks or always hanging out in the conference hall, just chatting around and asking questions. So what have you been up to lately? Oh, I tried this. Oh, and I had this problem. Oh, did you try this? And people would just mingle and just share what they've done previously. And that was an amazing Junto. There was no clear goal of what to do, but people would just share and catch up what they did. At least in the field of data science and machine learning, and other people just listen in and hear things. And this was a very solid, tight group of machine learning practitioners. So if I had to create a Junto again, that's what I would do. I would have organized meetups. Our meetups had 200 to 300 people showing up every month, but the regular solid group is only about 20, 30 people that would show up for every single meetup, or at least show up for 75% of meetups, and they would always hang around to chat. You always see the same few people hanging around to chat. And that's your Junto, because these people are interested in. So how do you know that? How do you find these people? That if they show up for a meetup on a Saturday night or a Friday night for data science, these guys are pretty hardcore, right? Most people are partying or drinking or spending time with their family. Second, they hang around to ask difficult questions. From the questions they ask, you already know that they think a lot about these things. They face these same problems before, and you already know that what they are doing at work. And then from the responses they share, you also know that you can already know that these are. And if I ever had to hire people, I would give a meetup, and I'll see the people that hang around in the meetup. Those are the kind of people I would hire, and that's how I would form a Junto again. I don't know if that answers your questions. Maybe in a roundabout way. It seems like a lot of effort to find a Junto, but a lot of it is finding people who have similar interests and are driven enough.
And maybe to the original question of how to make sure, like if it's about getting a job in data science and everybody seems to care only about one thing, getting a job, but maybe you have like these 5 or 10 people who have specific problems in mind. Hey, I had this interview question and I don't know how to answer to this question. Can you help me figure out the right answer? So this is a specific problem, right? And getting a job in data science is not super specific. So you discuss these specific things, specific problems that people have. And yeah, I guess This is how it usually goes. And I have experience organizing data breakfasts here in Berlin before COVID. Well, I wasn't really organizing, but I was just showing up there. And yeah, so oftentimes there would be people who are new, who just come for the first time. Usually they don't start attacking with questions on the very beginning. So they sit quietly first, and maybe, of course, who would ask to introduce themselves. Yeah, they wouldn't just jump and attack everyone with a lot of questions. But on the second time or on the third time, they would start to jump in and start having conversation as well. And yeah, so I don't know if it really answers the question, but this was a similar experience in my case as well, like similar to what Eugene said.
I think to Rosanna's question, I mean, if you have any topics about, questions, you can always post in the office hours chat. Think of the office hours chats as a Junto, right? Or a mastermind group, and Alexei and I will be happy to respond. Well, I'm not as responsive as Alexei, and I actually don't open my personal Slack, which has like 10 groups I'm part of. That becomes overwhelming. But feel free to add Alexei or add me, and we'll try to respond as soon as we can. And of course, if you want to chat, you can reach out, and I'll share with you my calendar. So I know we have 5 minutes left, and I think maybe it's not enough time to attempt another question, but I think I hope we were helpful in attempting the 2 questions here. But anyone else has any other questions that they just want to chime in, or any other comments, or any opinions or topics they want to discuss about? If not, I think maybe Alexei, that's it. We can stop the recording as well.